I'm Crystal Carmen,
And I'm Justin Dean.
and you're watching Beauty and the Geek.
So what are we talking about today?
Rap economy.
Rap economy?
Yeah. So, we're going to be talking about Cardi B. I was in a room today in Clubhouse, and we were discussing whether or not these celebrities are businesses. Do they have brands? Are they corporations? Can a rapper be a Fortune 500 company? Are these rappers wealthy? Or are they rich? And if you take away certain things, do they still have a brand? What are your thoughts?
I think they are a business for sure. Whether they're a corporation, I mean, some you could say ultimately are, but depending on how much value they offer to the market.
Okay, so if you were, let's say, and we're using for an example again, Cardi here, would you, being that she has a merch line, but she doesn't have a lot of different businesses, would you think that she would be best to create an LLC for her brand? Is she a corporation? Could she be a Fortune 500 company?
No, I mean, I don't think she could be a Fortune 500 company. I think she is an LLC.
Right.
As it is probably right now for her, as well as others. But I don't think she can be a corporation because her whole existence is basically a one dimension. From my perspective, it's really, she's obviously a rapper. And beyond that, I mean, I personally don't know, I guess, beyond that, because I don't know what value outside of that she holds to the market. I mean, or to whatever market that would be out there for entertainment. So,
value outside of what she does. Huh. So what do you think? Do you think that it's in their best interest then to create other businesses that are not tied directly to who they are as a person, or maybe tied directly to who they are?
I think
so it could exist independently of them.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's just like anyone else that creates a business or has a brand. There may be other pieces that sort of can run independent, but I think her in general, but I don't think really entertainers in general can be corporations, just purely because of their niche. Now they can go out there and invest in other things that ultimately could be corporations and things like that, and they, at some point may become, a mogul of some sort or whatever. Those are the kind of like Jay-Z. You look at other, athletes or musicians or whatever that sort of had a massive brand. They ultimately had those situations. But for the most part, comparing a celebrity entertainer to a corporation is it is not even in the same stratosphere.
It's not even apples and oranges. It's
it's apples and
concrete.
Rocks or something. I mean.
Okay, so here's the deal. What in the world is a Fortune 500 company?
To me, it's a collective of situations. So basically, I guess in a nutshell, it's a company that has acquired a significant amount of assets, whether those are people, revenue, and so forth. Obviously, it's usually judged by a certain number, and even you look at large companies that may generate a couple $100 million a year. They're nowhere in the idea of like a Fortune 500 company. You know, I mean, you're looking at, you know, like I look at the Fortune 500 companies are massive. You know, they're like, you know, probably, you know, 10-figure businesses. You know, as far as like revenue and things like that, and they've usually done a lot of acquisitions of a lot of different other businesses that would be considered like a subsidiary or something like that.
Right.
But you know, as far as on the business sort of food chain, they're in a drastic situation from a large business to a Fortune 500 or Fortune 100 size companies or whatever. Generally, they're publicly traded, you know, obviously, you know, for the most part too. So
I agree.
And have a lot of investment, you know, from that standpoint. So
interesting. So basically, your best way is to create other brands for yourself, to kind of spread out from that, because you want to create a corp. Could they theoretically create a corporation that exists outside of themselves?
Yeah, I mean, they could create a corporation and work towards, you know, growing it from wherever they are at to, you know, to being larger. I think I think if they were to form a corporation as like a brand, they could become a large corporation or a large company. But the whole idea around them being like a Fortune 500 company is probably not realistic. On average, you know. So
right,
like I said, they're, you know, like you look at like people like, you know, LeBron James or Floyd Mayweather, people that they have individual brands that are worth probably over $1 billion.
Right.
But if you sat there and you looked at like their brand as a business,
right,
say it's $1 billion business.
Okay.
It might be on the outside looking in of like a Fortune 500 company, you know, at the most, you know, wherever.
Right.
Because, you know, in some situations, now you look at like Floyd Mayweather or LeBron, they're invested in a lot of different things. So you can look at them as sort of closer to the level of a Fortune 500 or on the way to become into that conversation. Or Cardi B, which is on a completely different angle, or even a better example, maybe like someone like, you know, Rihanna or someone like that, who basically has a worth of, you know, probably $600 to $800 million or something like that. You know, even in her situation, it's primarily based around the entertainment, not really much outside of that, you know. So that's kind of the way. And so, like in her situation, it's like, it might be a large business.
Right, it is.
But not a Fortune 100, 500 company. Yeah.
Interesting. So, would you say that generally, musicians, because we hear about this like in the industry, so like on any day, like a regular day, are these musicians rich or are they wealthy?
I would say they're rich. I mean, if they have large sums of money, you know, let's say, you know, it's whatever classifies as rich, you know. So I would say if you're saying are they rich or are they wealthy, then I mean they're definitely not wealthy. I mean, maybe you have some that have moved into the wealth category,
right?
But that's a fraction of like the ones that exist, right? So I mean, I would look at them as, you know, as wealthy, as, you know, I would look at them as, I guess actually as like rich, not really wealthy, but that's all. And the question also becomes is like, are they actually rich, or are they actually in the middle class?
The middle class?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
The middle class, yeah.
But they're celebrities. So a celebrity in the middle class?
It doesn't matter, yeah.
Yeah, but
what is the middle class?
I thought there was none at this point.
There's obviously a class, like I look at the middle class as like if you take someone that's making $1 million a year, say it is an artist making $1 million a year.
Okay.
versus someone out there that's making $50,000 a year. And at the end of the year, if they break even, means this guy over here has made $50,000. This person over here has made $1 million, and at the end they're at zero. To me, that they're both in the middle class.
Huh?
Because they're operating on like, you know, it's kind of like you hear the whole thing about like the paycheck to paycheck thing is like, you know, a good majority of America is on. And so that's how I look at like, whether someone makes $2, $3, $4 million, they could technically be in the same situation as someone making $50,000 a year.
Right. That's interesting. So, do you have any advice for celebrities when they first start out?
Advice? I mean, I'm not a celebrity, so I mean, I don't have any advice. I mean, obviously they, you know, come into decent sums of money, you know, at either a younger age or wherever. Is I would definitely like begin to learn about money and things that are going to, you know, continue to like move their envelope as far as money goes, which means investing in other things and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, that they could, you know, progress on outside of their, so whatever it is that they're doing to make their fame.
From my perspective, I feel like, you know, it is an entertainment-based industry, right? That's what they're in, and you know, I feel like the show must go on for a certain amount of time. But one thing that we all know about shows is that eventually they come to an end.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I don't mean like that they won't continue working, but or like making hits. I mean, we have Beyonce. How long has she been dropping hits? So it's not to say that it won't happen, but one of the things that I have noticed is that a lot more celebrities are doing other things, like Rihanna with her beauty line, and she launched her lingerie line. And I think that I find those to be wise decisions because those can kind of survive. I mean, even if Rihanna didn't drop another song, she would be generating income from her beauty products and her lingerie, which doesn't necessarily operate independent of her branding, but operates independent of her having to sing. So I highly, you know, recommend that strategy because you don't have to sing, you don't have to drop any music, it doesn't have to be a hit, people are still gonna buy it. I actually am wearing her highlighter, Rihanna's highlighter right now, and you know, when I was there was nothing to stop. So I definitely agree with that, and the rich versus wealth as well. There's some that I think have acquired that at this point. But
yeah, I mean, if they're able to produce other millionaires,
yeah,
then yeah, they would be wealthy. I mean, I think that's the thing is like the true understanding of what that is. But I mean, like I said, they're maybe not corporations, and they don't necessarily need to be. I mean, and they may not have aspiration to be a Fortune 500 because they typically aren't leveraging the same things that like Fortune 500 companies try to leverage, right? So, because they're looking at short careers in certain areas or whatever. So,
well, I'm sorry that I kind of took this and kind of went with it. I don't no harm, no foul for the whole Cardi B situation, but it did come up in the room, and so I think it was important to kind of embellish on that. And what I understood you to say though is honestly you need to be looking at cash flow because of that middle class situation, right? Because you're saying that ultimately at the end of the week or the end of the 2 weeks they don't have, if they're living paycheck to paycheck, then they clearly don't have a consistent streaming or flow if they're spending the same amount. Like I say this too sometimes. I'm like, if a millionaire makes $1 million and spends all but $1 of it, and you make $30,000 a year and you spend only half of it, who's richer?
Yeah. I mean, the numbers become irrelevant. I mean, if the rapper has 40 million
Mm-hmm.
and a person has 40,000 to work with, like essentially they're the same, right? So I mean, obviously not the same number, but it's all, if that's all you have, that's all you have, right? So I mean, that's essentially like, I mean, the situation, because there are people that make like a lot of money in comparison to what people would think, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, if the new money's not coming in, they're always going to be without, which means someone can be worried about money at who's making $10 million a year, depending on how their lifestyle is.
Right.
I mean, so yeah, it's a deal. It doesn't really mean just because they have fame. And like I said, a lot of them aren't millionaires. I mean, they're not. So that's why I look at I mean, a lot of them, they are in the middle, or what is considered the middle class.
Interesting. This middle class thing too.
I mean, as far as what people consider middle class, I mean, obviously, I think it's an illusion, like I get a lot of other people do, but it's just more of a thing where people are worried about, their money. So.
Okay. Well, I think we cleared that up, and hopefully gave some more insight and information into that particular topic. And it's one of those industries I always found pretty curious when it comes to stuff like that. But I love to see when people create empires out of it, like we were discussing, like Jay-Z. Russell Simmons came out, and he had his brand, still does, and TV shows and stuff like that. So I just think that ultimately making sure that you use it to your advantage to generate the flow.
I mean, I look at their careers as like they're like springboards to like something else.
Right, right.
I mean, the ones that become like successful at it, when they're like springboards, they're not the end goal. They're just the avenue that they took.
Right.
And maybe they didn't do it on purpose as far as get to where they are. But it definitely it's one avenue to get to where they want to ultimately go, in terms of that goes. So, but people definitely shouldn't compare a celebrity to a corporation.
You got it.
That's a miss. I mean, if I'm a person studying on things, I'm studying corporation, not a celebrity.
Right. No, I agree. I agree with you.
Yeah.
To me, it seems like apples and oranges, but I can understand though how it could be confused, because when you hear Fortune 500 company, maybe you're not as well versed in like exactly what that means. You just feel like it's people. It could be anyone who has money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that was a good topic for today.
Yep.
I'm Crystal Carmen.
I'm Justin Dean.
And you're watching Beauty and the Geek.